Mortgage crisis inflicts collateral damage. Marriages, families, tax revenues fall victim to wave of foreclosures. The national surge in mortgage defaults is claiming more and more victims than just the thousands of subprime borrowers facing the prospect of losing their homes. Social service agencies say homeless rates are on the rise, not only as families lose their own homes to foreclosure, but also as renters are evicted after their landlords default. Financial analysis warn that state and local governments will soon feel the pinch of sharply reduced property tax revenue. And counselors say divorces and reports of abuse are rising as families burdened by impending foreclosure take the stress out on one another. The ripple effect illustrates the wide-ranging impact the subprime mortgage crash has had not only on the U.S. economy, but on society at large, said Robert Rake, who was Labor Secretary during the Clinton administration. Understand, the houses are the most important assets most Americans have, and they are seeing those assets disappear rapidly, he said. Little recourse for renters, especially hard-hit are families that rent their homes from landlords facing foreclosure. RealtyTrac, a national real estate network that specializes in foreclosed properties, estimates that more than 20% of foreclosures involve investment properties. When landlords lose those properties, their tenants lose a roof over their heads with very little warning. Unfortunately, there's not much a tenant can do other than move. There really is no protection for the renter or the tenant. Congress is considering a measure to require landlords to give tenants 90 days notice before they can be evicted. But even if it passes, it will not be in time to help thousands and thousands of renters who have already been evicted. Shelters feel the stress. Daryl Bartlett, Executive Director of the Holland Rescue Mission for Women, said there's a new kind of homeless, those that are the innocent victims of the subprime mortgage mess. We did not plan for large numbers of people who are being foreclosed on becoming homeless, Bartlett said. That was not in our plan. Eugene and Kathleen Pobo were packing up their rental home this week in Bakersfield, California, after getting an eviction notice. We're between a rock and a hard place, and basically we're up the creek without a paddle, Eugene Pobo said. Here we are, tenants paid our rent in time, went through credit checks and everything else, and now, all of a sudden, the landlord's going bad on a mortgage, he said. Officials at the Bakersfield homeless shelter said they were at capacity, but that more families wanted in. The shelter took in 7 families in one day this week. I'm definitely concerned now that we're receiving phone calls from people going through foreclosure, said Louis Gill, the shelter's executive director. We'll have to see what kind of additional burden that puts on the emergency systems. Local governments under the hammer. Government agencies that can help stricken families are also facing a bind, economists said, because the high number of foreclosures removes property taxpayers from the rolls. That's bad news. The housing market has put a big negative for local government revenues across the board, said Stephen Levi, director of the Center for Continuing Study of the California Economy in Palo Alto. The nonprofit Center for Responsible Lending said California could lose nearly $3 billion in property tax revenue and another $1 billion in sales and transfer tax revenue thanks to foreclosures. property tax revenues are going to be a lot less than local governments built into their budgets. They don't even know yet. And there are going to be tough times at the local level, he said. Atlanta City Council member Mary Norwood said property tax revenues would also take a hit because foreclosed homes drive down property values in a neighborhood, leading to blight and leading to lower assessments on people who do pay up. The Center for Responsible Lending put that price tag at more than $17 billion nationwide. You have a lot of vandalism. The house deteriorates. That drags down the whole neighborhood. Neighborhood after neighborhood being dragged down. Norwood said it affects the property values of the other homeowners in the community. More families under siege. The stress of dealing with threatened foreclosure is also taking a serious toll on families. It just gets pulled right out from underneath you, said Wendy Hatt, whose marriage broke up under the strain of dealing with the prospect of losing the family's home in Tucson, Arizona. Hatt's real estate agent, Amato Calderon, said homeowners squeezed by the mortgage crisis were left at sea. It's one of the most stressful situations for couples, for homeowners, for all kinds of people. Calderon said they really don't know their options. At the Women's Center of San Joaquin County in Stockton, California, calls to the domestic abuse hotline have jumped at least 12% in recent weeks, fueled largely by the strain on families losing their homes, said the center's director. If they're not dealing with the stress or talking to somebody about it, it is going to escalate and come out in forms of violence. Vivian Ward, a hotline counselor at the center, said families simply run out of money even as they watch their mortgage rates climb. More and more people being affected by this every day. This is bad news for the United States, and it will continue to drag down the economy. Yes, the United States, America, is in a lot of trouble. A lot of times, the abuse starts because they don't have enough money to make those mortgage payments. They're just so high and climbing even higher. Yes, these are more signs of the last days. And yes, the United States economy is starting to slow, to possibly go into recession, or even worse as time goes by, because of all the things that have gone before in this country, and all the things that this president and this government have done in the years past. And they're not all good. No, war is not good. And yes, it has been a real drain on the economy. Trillions of dollars spent for nothing. War is no good. These are more signs of the last days, and there are many of them. Multitudes upon multitudes.